Hey y'all, welcome to Meet Me in Tennessee. I'm your host, Sabrina Morton. This show is sponsored by Northeast Tennessee Tourism Association. Go visit them on their website, northeasttennessee.org, and it's all spelled out, no abbreviations. Happy to have with us today Bob Dunn. Bob is with the Heritage Alliance in Jonesborough, Tennessee. Bob, tell us a little bit about the Heritage Alliance, what you do there.
Sure. Thanks a lot for having me today. The Heritage Alliance, we take care of everything really historic in Jonesborough. Actually encompasses a lot of Washington County also. We work typically out of the Chester Inn Museum there, which is a state-owned museum. We provide the manpower to run the museum. We provide tour guides for the walking tours. We're in costume, walking up and down the historic district, meeting and greeting people. We run not only that museum for the state, but we run the Washington County Museum at the Visitor Center on Boone Street in Jonesborough. We operate and run the historic Old City Cemetery, which we've restored. We give tours there. We also do a play there every year. The Chuckey Railroad Depot Museum down on 2nd Avenue with the caboose, for us kids that like to play in cabooses. We also have a historical salvage warehouse down on Depot Street, which we operate also, taking any and all buildings, homes and stuff in the area that are going to be razed, torn down, take everything, put it in there, so people restoring historic buildings can have parts to do proper parts to restore those. That stuff is getting really difficult to find and getting extraordinarily expensive, but we provide that service also.
Okay, you all do a lot
We
of
do.
things
We
that
do a
I
lot
just
of
did
stuff.
not know of.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Okay, where are you from originally, Bob?
I was born in Virginia, born in Halifax County, Virginia. So if you go east-west across the state, it's right in the middle, right down on the North Carolina border. Born on a huge bright-leaf tobacco plantation there. Spent my first 18 years through high school there. And then I joined the U.S. Navy. I spent 30 years in the Navy. I was a frogman in the Navy, a diver. Traveled all over. We retired back to Lynchburg, Virginia, and stayed there for quite a number of years, and then moved to Jonesborough almost 12 years ago. It'll be 12 years next month.
Okay. So what brought you to Jonesborough, or to the area?
My daughter had always, she was like a music prodigy, and she had looked at schools to continue her music education. Two of them that came up were the University of Washington in Seattle and East Tennessee State University. Luckily, she picked East Tennessee State University, so she got a bachelor's and master's there in music performance. She's a flutist, does a lot of blues and jazz and a little bit of everything, can play just about anything. Met a local guy who was a videographer out of college. He worked for a division of ESPN Sports doing sports programming, and they traveled all over really the world doing that stuff. And finally got kind of burnt out on that. He came back to Jonesborough, where his family's from, bought a new house, and he went to work for a TV station. Still works for TV stations in the area, and she formed a flute group, and they play all around the area. They're actually at Biltmore now doing the holiday festivities there. They play that quite every year, and she just plays around. And honestly, my wife and I at the time, we got tired of driving up and down Interstate 81 to see them, so we bought a house in Jonesborough, and the rest is history, as they say.
Okay. So explain exactly what it is you do with the Heritage Alliance. I have been on one of Bob's tours, but I got separated from your group. They had to divide. We were with a large group that day.
Yes.
And I got divided, and I was with the girl dressed in the old-fashioned swimsuit,
Yes.
pantaloon things.
Yes. Yes. I don't wear
You
pantaloons,
don't-
but we
well,
are.
you might consider it.
You
It
might
might be
consider
fun.
it,
I don't know.
Nah. Especially in the summertime, it might be fun.
Yes.
No, we're in period costumes. All the tour guides. We have about 4 or 5 tour guides that can do the job. We give the walking tours of the whole historic district. When I first started there, we were giving tours just about every day, and then after the COVID issue, pretty much everything stopped, and then they're down to like one scheduled a week now on a Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, leaving from the Chester Inn Museum there on Main Street. But we do also a tremendous amount of private tours and specialty tours like you took with tour guide companies, different podcasters or video YouTubers, that type of thing, magazines,
Influencers.
every people that come there in groups. And that can be any time. A lot of private tours now because people are wanting special times, especially at families, and it gets kind of busy, especially during the holidays because they've got people in from out of town, maybe spending the holidays with them, and they want to show them around. So we do a lot of that also.
Okay. So tell us, kind of go through what a tour is like.
Sure. Well, we meet the tours. The walking tours are very economical. They cost $5. It's not much money there, and we cover really the entire historic district of Jonesborough. We don't really give scripted tours per se. I don't read anything. It's all from really depending on how the group is set up. You may have a group that's specifically maybe interested just in architecture or just general history or whatever their interest might be, Civil War period, whatever. And we try to tailor it a little bit towards that once we find out that information. If not, it's just a tour of how Jonesborough came about, being the oldest town in Tennessee, how it progressed through time and history and what happened and who did what to whom and that type of thing. And talking about the buildings and everything that really happened there through history. It's quite a unique place. The history there is quite a bit different than a lot of people think of maybe the South and maybe Tennessee. Basically.
What's one thing that you think, or that you can tell us, that is perceived differently than it actually is about Jonesborough?
I would say really the almost non-existence of slavery. Jonesborough was a very wealthy town, a very politically wealthy town, I guess you could call it that. But being in the South, there were really no Civil War battles per se around Jonesborough. There were no skirmishes to amount to anything. Yes, we had different armies would come into town and maybe occupy for a day or two and then go elsewhere. But where I'm from in Virginia, God, you can dig in everybody's front yard and you can find musket balls and battles and all that stuff. But here, not so much. Jonesborough was made up of not only several generations of Americans that had been here, but a lot of immigrants coming from the continent, especially after the Revolutionary War, coming to the New World to make a better life for themselves and their families, to escape maybe political, religious prosecution over there. And they bring not only their skill sets, because they've had a lot longer to do their skill sets than we have, but they bring different political views, not necessarily believing in slavery, not a lot of big Quaker influence there, which didn't necessarily believe in slavery, but there were Quakers that owned slaves. They're just, I guess, the mindset. We talk about that, or at least I talk about that quite a bit in my tour, because I think it's a very important part of Tennessee's history. Tennessee being the first state, the last state to secede from the Union and the first state to go back. And in fact, all of Northeast Tennessee, all the counties here, actually voted not to secede from the Union. but were overridden by middle to western Tennessee because that's where the plantations are. And the only reason for slavery was to run the large plantations of the South. The plantations, we grew the food and we produced the cotton for the clothing. The North was the industrialized part. They made the machinery, the steel and the iron works. So that is the only reason for having slavery, and to run the large plantations in the Virginias, Carolinas, Georgias, middle to western Tennessees, down to Mississippi towards New Orleans, that type of thing. But Jonesborough, a very rich town, uppity town, ahead of itself town, pardon me, surrounded by very small farms. No need for slavery. So, Jonesborough, there were free African Americans that lived and worked and owned property on Main Street in Jonesborough that operated businesses. And people just don't quite understand that actually did happen in the South. Many of the churches there on Main Street, African Americans came and participated in regular services on Sundays. That doesn't even happen anymore in the United States. The most segregated time in U.S. history right now is Sunday morning in church. So, but that happened there and still happens there. So it's quite a cultural shock to a lot of people that come there and see what they perceive is maybe quite a bit different than what actually happens.
Yeah, I did not know any of that. So it's really more of a progressive town than
Yes.
people realize, especially for a very small town.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's very interesting. So when you do your tours, I know you're dressed up. Do you have are you a character? Do you
Not
portray
necessarily a
character?
character, just representing a different particular time in history. All of us have probably 3 or 4 or 5 different costumes depending on seasons. Try to get the lightest weight was in the 90-degree summer, but that doesn't usually happen because we use typically authentic costumes, authentic reproductions of costumes, which means they are, wool and double flannel and, many layers. And it can be quite hot. You have to get kind of acclimated to that. Changing from, early 1800s to post-Civil War to into the 1900s. You just changing costumes, period. Now coming up for the holidays, more Dickens type costumes with the tails and the top hats and all that stuff and the fancy stuff for the holidays. People wanted to see that, so that's what we do.
Do you sing?
I do not sing. God
Wondering
no.
Christmas carols as
No,
you're
no,
walking
no,
through.
no Christmas carols for me. I can't carry a tune in a bucket. That's my daughter.
I can't either, unfortunately. So, what is a great story you can tell us of just something that happened along a tour, or something just that a guest did?
Well, there's a couple of them really. One was we had a bus tour, and a tour bus of, I think there were 65 people on the tour bus, plus a driver and 2 attendants, so 68 people, big bus. And they had come to do tours, and we had them all set up and everything. And about the time the bus pulled into behind the courthouse to park, the skies opened up and we had a monsoon. I mean, it rained all day long, just poured down. So we were scratching our heads. Well, maybe we'll wait a minute. Let's look at the radar. Let's see what's going to happen. No, it's all dark green and still coming. So just got up on the bus, figured out that they had a microphone so you could talk. So started talking on the bus, and we just kind of did a tour from the bus. Towards the end, we actually got the bus driver to drive up and down Main Street, which probably wasn't the greatest idea for traffic, but anyway, we did it. And got him to turn around a couple of times and talked about individual buildings, but that was kind of an interesting time. The other one was about 5 or 6 years ago. I had received a message from my boss there that a lady from Blowing Rock, North Carolina, wanted to do a private tour. Not unusual. I mean, that happens quite a bit. And evidently she had seen I don't know, a YouTube video or something of me in one of my costumes, and she had requested that I give the tour in that particular costume, and I go, this is getting a little strange. But we took it, and she came in, met a really nice lady. Her name's Brenda Cancel, and she's out of Blowing Rock. She's a quite a renowned artist, actually. And she took the tour, very interesting lady, asked a lot of questions. She had a camera with her. She was taking lots of pictures. And towards the end of the tour, we finished up, and I thanked her and told her, you know, thanks for coming and all that. And she says, can I take some pictures of you? And I go, yeah, that's fine. I mean, that happens quite a bit too. And then she says, well, I need you to pose. And I go, uh-oh, this is getting a little weird right here. And so she kind of posed me on the street, which was kind of embarrassing, but we were sitting there, and she was taking pictures basically of my pants and you know, torso and all that, and I was going, okay, this is really strange. And then she told me she was actually she had been commissioned to do a full-life bronze statue of a fellow named Elliot Dangerfield, who is North Carolina's prominent artist in Blowing Rock. And she wanted to see how the folds of my particular suit fell on the legs and across the shoes and all that, because I was posing like I was holding a palette and a brush in this hand like I was painting. And I said, okay. Well, about a year later, I got this invitation to come for the unveiling of the bronze, and it is in Blowing Rock at the name of that place is, what is the name of that place? The Edgewood Cottage. And it's outside, and it's a full scale, and it's pretty cool. A lot of people come and visit that. So that was an odd tour right there.
That is an odd request.
Yes.
Okay. What are the biggest challenges that you face as a tour guide, and are there any advantages to being a tour guide?
Well, the advantages would be meeting so many people from all over the world. I mean, we entertain thousands, hundreds of thousands of people at that place, and very diverse from everywhere now. People coming from everywhere to see it. We're lucky that we have a town, an entire town, that has been kept old. There's only probably 5 or 6 of these left in the United States. You can find individual buildings and stuff like that, but not an entire town that's been kept like this. And kudos to the powers to be that they decided to do that. I mean, economically, probably doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, they could have turned this into a Pigeon Forge or a Gatlinburg or a Dollywood or something like that and made a lot more money, but they decided to keep it old, and I think that goes a long way, especially with the history of the town being the oldest town.
Definitely. It is a hard thing to find now.
It's
Something
very
that's
difficult to find.
as original as Jonesborough.
Yes. Challenges, probably walking in costume in 90-degree plus temperatures in the
feeling you were gonna
summertime.
say
Yeah, that gets a little taxing at times. You get acclimated to it. You kind of build up to it. Our tour season starts the 1st of March and ends the last day of December. So they give us January and February to sleep. We hibernate those 2 months. But,
And cool off.
well, yeah, kind of. But we're always working because we are still having to do displays in all the museums and that type of thing, and you know, bring everything back up to date, figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, how we're going to you know, the whole plan for the coming year, that type of thing. Make sure we got tour guides, make sure costumes are correct, and still do lots of interviews, even in off period time. And we're always getting requests for people coming and wanting to know information on Jonesborough.
That's great. That's great that it is an all year.
Yeah, it's pretty much
round.
year round now, pretty much.
So this is the fun part. This is my favorite part.
Okay.
Where we get personal.
Oh boy.
In a movie about your life, who would play you?
Oh wow. George Clooney,
Okay.
because he's almost as handsome as me.
Almost.
Almost, close.
Okay. What is your favorite local dining spot? Can be anywhere in the region.
Okay, in Jonesborough, that would be Texas Burritos and More.
Okay,
A
yes.
very great place, family-owned, from Texas. Really good people, completely authentic food, good prices, and have become really good friends with those people. In Johnson City, to be honest with you, Label. I like Label because they got the best shrimp and grits in the entire world.
They do. I agree with that. I
So,
love their shrimp and grits.
Shrimp and grits are awesome there.
And the tacos, and
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
it's very good. Good choices. Do you have a signature cocktail?
Oh,
What's your
boy.
thing you always?
Well, there was a period of time that I left the Heritage Alliance and went to work when Tennessee Hills Distillery opened up at the Salt House. And I was their first bartender and tour guide and historian for that building. I worked there about 3.5 years. And got to know a whole lot about the liquor industry there real quickly. My favorite would be they make a product called Lemon Drop.
Yes.
It is a lemonade flavored liquor, really good. But I mix it. I call it a Tennessee Hills Margarita. It's mixed that with Patron, so you got two
Oh,
liquors
okay.
just together, and that's it. There's no mixers. The
Just
Lemon
that.
Drop is a mixed,
Oh.
and Patron is
Okay.
the tequila. So yeah, it's a little strong, but it's really good.
That
I like
sounds
it
really
a lot.
good. I did not ever think to do that. I went to a tasting there, and it was actually the day that I was on the tour where I met you. So there were about 50 people, I think, on that tour, and it was
Sure.
charter bus owners or operators.
That's right.
And there was a big group, and we were sitting around, and I thought I had never been to Tennessee Hills, and I thought, well, I thought we were going to the distillery, and it is, granted, like 11 a.m., so it's a
Right.
little early,
Yep.
but still. It was my first week, and I was like, I have to know all these things for my job. So, I dragged some of the other bus operators, owners with me. There were a few of us were very anxious to go. Some people didn't want to walk up the hill.
Sure.
Or drink at 11 a.m., I guess. I don't know. But so we went up and did a tasting, and I think I tasted everything in there. It was awesome. It's all so good.
Yes.
That lemonade Patron thing, though,
That's a good one.
that is a good
You should
one.
try that.
I'm going to have to try that. We're looking right now for wedding, like signature drinks
There
for
you
our
go.
wedding receptions.
They have a
We'll
lot
have
of
to-
those.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
you can
May have to
tie
go
it in
down
with the
there.
local thing because it's all local down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Not only there, but here in Johnson City, and now the new place that
In
they
Bristol.
just in Bristol.
Yeah, I
Gosh,
went to the
it's going to be insane.
groundbreaking of that.
Yep.
Everyone was there.
Yep.
Every politician from Tennessee was there.
Yep.
Okay, well, this has been worth it just for that drink recipe
Yeah.
alone. What's your personal theme song? When you walk in a room, what's the song in your head?
Oh wow.
It could change sometimes.
It
depending on the
changes quite a
situation.
bit depending on situations. I guess because I'm more jazz and blues oriented. I like Dave Brubeck a lot. The old Dave Brubeck, Take Five. That's one of my favorites. It plays on my car a lot, or my truck a lot. I tend to like that type of music. It's just more mellow. My daughter and I share that love for jazz and blues. Some of the other stuff I'm not too crazy about, the newer music. I'm just not into it. I'm just an old school guy. I do like, believe it or not, I still like some of the old big band stuff. I just think that's classic music, and some of the Motown stuff. I enjoy that also.
I do too. I like bands.
Yeah.
I feel like when COVID hit, music kind of took a downturn. And
Absolutely.
I don't know why, because everybody was home. I feel like
Sure.
there could have been a lot of writing going on. Maybe everyone was depressed, but usually that brings good music. So
Sure, it's
but-
and this is music state. I mean, this
Yes.
place has a huge history in music of really all types, and that's another cool thing about it. I enjoy that type of thing.
It's true, and they do a lot of that in Jonesborough too.
We
I
do.
know they have a lot of music in the square down there, and just
Free
They have-
concert every Friday night in front of
Yes.
the courthouse. A free
a
concert.
free concert every Friday night. Is that all year, or just in the summer? Isn't it?
Usually summer, usually March, April till about October.
I think
you know,
Jonesborough, especially for the size, has more events than any place on earth. They always have.
Every weekend there's
Some
an event in
event.
Jonesborough of some kind.
Yes.
There's always something going on the weekend in
There is,
Jonesborough.
and it's right there downtown. Everybody can go. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
just
a
keep
great
back.
little town.
Yeah, I love it.
Bob, thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
joining me today. It's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you, Northeast Tennessee Tourism, for sponsoring the podcast. If you're looking for something to do this week or this weekend, go to northeasttennessee.org. They will have all of Jonesborough's events on their calendar, as well as everywhere else in the region of Northeast Tennessee. We will talk again soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Sure.